the thingies this doesn't fit, the braces doesn't work.
I think for possibly what you can ask is, what you're going to do, I don't know if it is useful, is ask them to the user, so what is it they're going to use it for.
Yeah, I had a chat with people.
Sure. That's good.
And then we just, it's that vagrant file that we did in the thing, but we're just building it bit by bit and showing you what happens. So we'll be doing a few vagrant reloads, having a look at the box, set up new line provisioning scripts, again do a vagrant reload, optimize configuration, and then once that's done, it's a working app. I mean, I think the advantage is that it does show just like seconds. So it does show how quick and easy it is, but we'll need to we'll need to get things downloaded in the box. That's the main thing.
So do you think none of them got the systems work?
Only Eddie has a system that will work. Grace?
That in 5 minutes yet?
Now.
Now?
Yeah, what are we waiting for?
The top end network?
No, apart from that. No, but we are... Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Just to let you know.
Whereas here, somehow maintaining
It's good that actual presentation is good. It's good because you had a lot more to cover though. Because I didn't look at it before while we were presenting. I was looking at it. I was like, you covered whole load at the same time. It's too much to take in the same time, and I'm sure it must be daunting for you to cover all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to pitch because, as you say, I could just talk for 3 hours about this. Get on to, I think I was thrown in it, but I think there were only 3 teams because I was assuming that the questions at the end of that. It is all. It's all good.
It's an experience at the end of the day. It's good. It's good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. What happened to all?
So,
We'll drop the rest of them, yeah.
Except off.
they just follow the instructions, Adam, there.
So no, if you can run this command, that won't work because you can't use the USB key. So just type this. Let me just get it up onto here. Just type vagrant. Can you see that? You've done that already.
I think I've done that.
So do a vagrant box list. Let's see if we've got. Grace, I had a bit of a look. Sorry. It's not even. It's almost down to space anyway. Key one.
Yep.
I'm really sorry, but.
It's fine. I can do this.
Yeah, we're good to go. We're good to go. Right.
So just quick on Zach in a bit later this thing, but you've got the script here that brings this all up and installs MySQL and that kind of.
Just a very, very basic vagrant file, and then we're going to be building it into a lamp stack, creating a lamp stack. That virtual machine will then have everything on it. We'll be able to see the Apache test page. It'll be a lamp stack that you can use on virtual machine on your own host.
And take down as you need.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of this whole lab is on our GitHub. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention is that at this URL that's up here, github.com/automatedit, there's a vagrant section. Within that there's a folder called lamp, and this file that you're looking at here is instructions.md. So these instructions are on the web. You can follow them yourself. You can go home and do this on your own machine. The USB keys, they've got the base box on them. They've got the installers for Vagrant and for VirtualBox. So, I mean, we're going to go. So what we're essentially going to do, as we talked about, is we're going to build on what we talked about in the talk. So in the talk, we started with creating a very, very basic Ubuntu machine from nothing. We're going to take that. We had set this up so that you download it, but actually Eddie has already pulled it from the net. I've got this box that we've started creating. So this is a very basic Ubuntu Xenial box. We're going to edit the Vagrant file. So, Eddie, just use your favourite editor.
Yeah.
And let's. Where did I actually put all this? So I'm going to pull this out and replace it all with what was in here. So this is a really simple, basic start to a box. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit in the talk. It's got the basic configure. This section, this is my own personal habit with Vagrant files. VirtualBox is always referred to as default because obviously that's the default name. So I always like to actually define a box. If we wanted to create, say for example, we wanted to create one lamp stack and another box that was doing something else, we could basically just copy this section. Standard Ruby, every section you have, you give a namespace to. So all of this stuff is named for the namespace that I've defined up here. The config itself, obviously, is named for the config that's defined there. Okay, so I've saved that. Let's go back to here. And I'm going to do, so we've got, the other command that I didn't mention that's quite useful is Vagrant status. So Vagrant status will tell me what's going on. Well, I've not actually got this running. There is a Vagrant file there, but there's nothing running at the moment, so it says not created. So let's do a Vagrant up. Now, what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm also going to run VirtualBox just so you can see this. Yeah, of course.
Let me just.
We're going to use all the time if you use Vagrant. Vagrant up basically takes the Vagrant file, turns it into a machine. So this is going through the sequence. It's ready to go. And so from here, I can do a Vagrant SSH, that's not in capitals. There's our machine running. So that's only a very basic Vagrant file. Let's close most of this down. There. So is that running for you now, Eddie?
Yep.
Okay. So the next step is basically to add in, I'll bring the instructions back up. Now one of the things I didn't do, which I'm going to add now, and Eddie followed this too, is we didn't add in the guest editions, which is quite important. But the VB guest plugin is brilliant. It essentially always downloads the version. So guest, do you guys use VirtualBox very much? Yes, no.
So, a couple of projects, that's all.
So VirtualBox provides these guest plugins, and lots of other useful stuff. It's really useful to have them in here. But one of the problems is that there's a different version of the guest editions ISO for each version of VirtualBox itself. If you're using VirtualBox, using the GUI to install guest editions, what you basically do is bring up a virtual machine and then mount this ISO and then install a whole load of stuff and run some commands. What the VB Guest plugin does is it automatically downloads the correct version of the ISO and manages a lot of the other stuff for you. So I'm going to do a reload. And as we mentioned before, a reload is basically a halt and then an up. So it's going to start trying to do a graceful shutdown and then bring it back up. And we'll probably see it heading off and chuntering away, doing a lot of, so it installs like the kernel devil packages and that kind of thing as part of bringing the guest editions online. Did you manage to install the plugin okay, Eddie?
It seems to be fine. Yeah.
Is it doing the same thing as...
It's doing pretty much what your screen is doing. It's chuntering along and getting lots of stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. So the next bit that we're going to do, we can start doing this while this is loading up. The next bit that we're going to do is edit the vagrant file and add in these lines. Now what these lines are doing, in the talk I did cover this very briefly. What these are doing are the networking steps. We're adding in forwarded ports and we're adding in the sync folder. So I will just go to Atom and tack these in here. Just wait for that to do its stuff. Really simple thing to pull those latest changes in. Just do a vagrant reload. See why I thought this would take longer with a group of people, because there'd be lots of people going through these steps. We did toy with putting, or I did toy with putting everything that we need for this onto the USB sticks, but then it just would have been a lab in how to pull stuff from a USB stick onto your local. If you run this at home, you'll be following exactly the same commands, and the same stuff will happen. So, if we go back to VirtualBox just for a moment, I've cleaned this up a bit, and there's our running machine. So I'm just getting in a different way. So normally you can use Vagrant SSH, which just runs an SSH. What I'm going to do instead is just log in as Vagrant. And again, this is partly about showing you how insecure it is, because that's login Vagrant, password Vagrant. Okay, that insecurity is by design. The point about these is they're supposed to be local environments that you run locally, that you use private networks on, that are there for you to do your development on, not for you to run. You can set up more secure keys there. Okay. So let's exit out of that. my virtual box, you can see that the VM's powered off. Okay, now I'm just going to run this back up again to show you. I'm not going to look at the forwarded ports just for now because we'll wait until we've got something meaningful on them. But I'll just show you the sync folder.
Port 22 forward is automatic, isn't it?
Yeah. So we talked a bit at the start about base boxes, and a base box is kind of your literally take an ISO, install it onto a virtual machine, package that up into a box, use it. Right, so let's just. Actually, before I do that, let's just do a quick LL so you can see what's in here. If I do a SSO, exactly the same stuff. So anything that I put into the folder that my variable file's in immediately becomes available here. So given that this is in the path that the Apache Stack's going to use, obviously you can see how easy it is to get that up and running. Let's exit out there. Leave that machine running. And we're on to the last major bit of this, which is the installation of the actual AMP bit of the LAMP stack. So, this script here, we can read it, it's very simple, it's just a set of apt gets. Yeah, you'll need to actually navigate it.
Grind your machine completely.
It's that one.
Okay. More than equivalent of a 4-point.
So, chuck this in at the start here. And then chuck so the provisioning command here, this particular one obviously is provisioning with an inline shell. I could have put that whole lot in as a single string and it would work just as well. But this way does show you some of the power of Ruby, a little tiny bit of the power of Ruby. You managed to find the bits of script there?
We're putting them into?
So the inline script and the variable, that can go anywhere as long as it's above the actual provision. I've stuck it, if you just copy that stuff. I've stuck it above the local file API version that it can go anywhere in there. Awesome. Now we're also missing a few other lines. We've not on this one. We've not yet set up the forwarded ports and the sync folder.
No, others. Oh no, I don't.
I guess it can do anyway.
Yeah, as long as it's within that LAMP section. So as you can see, these just very
Let's create this version. Oh, I haven't got that.
So just if you just copy these 3 lines, that's it, and just put them in anywhere between that and that. What's this stuff here?
Okay.
So this is basically all this section is an inline shell script, and we're using a little bit of Ruby magic to basically feed that script between script and script. That's going into this provision lamp.
Ah, okay.
And then the provision lamp variable just gets used there. Okay. So this line, actually, all this line needs to do is go inside this section pretty much anywhere. But my personal view would be at the bottom. So one line, yeah, exactly the line after that. Awesome. Now, there's one thing I didn't mention about reloading and provisioners. I just remembered, but I completely forgot. So provisioning only happens the first time that you run Vagrant up. Okay. The only exception to that is if you use the -- provision flag. But if I just ran Vagrant reload now, it would reload all the stuff that's in here, but it would ignore the provisioning. Okay, it just wouldn't do it. The reason for that's fairly obvious. You don't want to start running back up. You don't want to start trying to reinstall everything. So provisioning only runs once. So this time, to get this stuff in, I'm pretty sure I did put this in the instructions. Let's confirm that. So the final script, Eddie, you've got should look something like that. And we need to add this. Just flag at the end. Let me just. So I think that I've actually had a bit of a brain fart there, and I'll have to edit that. I think it should be -. Sorry, that should say provision rather than configuration.
Just stuff it in at the end. Just stuff it in the end of that section, of the lamp section.
Sorry, which is this?
The one.
No. Yeah, so that looks good. So if you save that, that's your Vagrant
Well,
file.
but I'm sorry, this last bit changed to.
No. This is run from the command.
Oh, okay.
It's run from the command line. Second, it's amazing how you miss stuff. Just reload that. Okay.
That's a good message.
Yeah. So this is going to take a few minutes now because it's going to go through and install everything that we need. When it's done, what we're going to do is here, we're going to take a look at localhost port 8080. Now for the moment there's not going to be anything there because as you can see it's going through and doing lots of installs. So it started off with an update and upgrade, and that's what it's going through now. Now this stuff is obviously taking a while to run through, just because we've not got a great network here and it's pulling quite a bit of stuff. The other step that you could take once you've done all this, if you want to make this available to one of your colleagues, is we can use the vagrant box repackage command. As we run the file system, you lose the advantages that you get from versioning. But I think we'll probably set up an automated IT vagrant top level. There we go. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there we go.
Good.
There you go. So that you have a lap stack running on VirtualBox.
Yeah.
Well, the curse of the live demo didn't strike. Okay, so that's it. I mean, we're 8 minutes from the end of our planned finish. So actually, we probably would have totally overrun if we'd had 12 people with all the laptops. So that's okay. That's worked all right. Yeah. Any questions? You guys can ask questions too.
Well, just, one thing was all that stuff that was getting downloaded.
Yep.
There were 2 or 3 which I didn't see on your screen. Probably still fine.
Without actually digging through the logs, I can't tell you for certain.
Probably crunch through the logs, that's the only thing. I thought it might not work, and it might have cut and paste something stupid in BMI or whatever.
I don't think so. All that that's doing is literally the same as if you logged onto a Linux box and ran each of those, whatever it was, 7 commands as custom commands.
Yeah.
So, at get, update and upgrade, I pretty much run that about once every couple of weeks on every Linux box I've got. Just to check to see if that's happening. The other stuff, that's exactly the way that you'd install it on a Xenia 64 box. So it's no different from what you do from the command line. It's just that, the key thing here, the sort of the DevOpsy bit of this, is that this is all now infrastructure as code. That vagrant file will get checked into Git. You can, if you were working in an environment where you needed to use an app, say, I don't know, if you were developing WordPress plugins, for the sake of argument. You set that up, maybe add in a few more things that you want for your plugin. You want to give it to a tester to make sure it's okay. The tester just runs your vagrant file. They've got your environment. There's none of it works on my box anymore because your box is the same as everyone else's box.
Is the explanation the ecosystem?
To a large
study what a vagrant was.
To a large extent, that's the advantage of the configuration. You can you can run this stuff, you can check it in, you can try running it from vagrant SSH. If it works, you add it to your configuration, you do a reload, you make sure the box does what you expect, check it in, and you've got a new version that's got the new stuff that you wanted. Okay. Any questions?
I suppose for me though, if I were one of these guys like tester, and if I'm doing this on a test machine using Vagrant, how would I ensure this goes into production?
I think it would be more the other way around. What you'd be looking to do is make sure that your Vagrant file matches your production environment as closely as you can. So rather than looking to pump what's here out into production, you try to make what's here. One of the things that we pondered doing as kind of an alternative branch for this was actually setting up a Red Hat Enterprise Linux server, which is a bit more stuff that we couldn't build something that's identical to, say, the boxes we build on VMware using this, and then run it on our local laptops, and then completely kill them because we run out of CPU and memory.
When you were saying people release updates, so when there's like an app-to-date update or whatever in the base boxes, people release new versions and stuff like that, does that mean, are you pulling down the whole thing every time one of these updates, or is it like Docker does layers?
No, it does layers.
Right.
It does layers.
So have commit points and
Yeah. That's one of the advantages of running a proper repository.
so the VirtualBox, how well does that run on older versions of Windows? Just from playing around with Docker and finding anything prior to Windows 10's a pain in the ass.
So I've been running VirtualBox on Windows at least since 7. I think it's pretty good.
Windows 7 was okay.
Windows 7
But after that, it's just turned into shit.
Actually, I actually quite like 10. I think Windows 10's alright. I think it's pretty good. This will also, I've run this reasonably successfully on Hyper-V as well. I don't particularly like Hyper-V. Some people rave about it, but I don't particularly like it. I don't find it as intuitive as VirtualBox. I also I run this at home. I've got a fairly big server running in KVM, and it runs flawlessly in KVM. It's brilliant. The only thing is that, so if it might be worth very quickly showing you actually the Vagrant Cloud. So unsurprisingly,
I'm kind of looking at handing this out to people who have no technical knowledge and going, right, here you go, here's something that just works on your laptop and gives you a virtual machine to play around with. And how easy it's going to be to do that.
it should be fairly easy. Don, you've got quite a bit of experience with VirtualBox. It's pretty stable. Probably not on Windows though, because that would be breakout.
I did a good behind, but I'm sure he's still on pretty good. And VirtualBox on old Windows on a low power laptop without any issues.
Still Windows 7, so it's not horrendously old.
The Windows 7 should be. I've definitely run it on 7.
Windows 7 is about the best thing we've ever produced.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think
It doesn't play nicely with Docker though.
Yeah. Well, none of Windows plays very nicely with Docker because you don't have any choice but to use Hyper-V, do you?
10's alright. The 10 Enterprise Edition, after a certain point, has just started to play nicely, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're looking at the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I touched on this a little bit, but one of the use cases for this over Docker would be running Docker on Windows, because it's so much easier running it in VirtualBox. Even if it plays nicely, it's still easier running in VirtualBox on Linux.
It's still slow on Windows 10, even when it works nicely.
So this is the cloud. As you can see, there's a whole host of boxes. You can ask for anything that you want. Note that there are specific providers. So for KVM, I need to look always for libvirt boxes. They tend to run very stably when I do find them, but there aren't all that many of them. Anything that you fancy will be on here somewhere, I'm fairly sure. Yeah, no, I've asked for libvirt though. You're not going to find Windows 7 on them. See, even the useless stuff's on there. And again, it also highlights that you don't necessarily just want to go and blindly download boxes from. So all of these top-level namespaces, you can just create one. They're like GitHub namespaces. They're meaningless unless you've got some reason to trust them. So for example, I know that the Ubuntu stuff, that does actually come from Canonical, so I trust Ubuntu. I know that Bento comes from Chef, I trust that. I know that HashiCorp, I trust that. But I do use the CentOS box, CentOS 7, and I've not yet investigated why they've not been a bit better about this, but if we look at this box, and then go and look at the CentOS top level, you can see they've not put anything in. So I genuinely am not sure I would trust those very much. I would much rather go for the Bento CentOS 7 box, because we know Bento.
And in Docker Hub, you get builds that are automated, so they pulled from GitHub, and then you can go to GitHub and see exactly what's in it and know that that is what's been built and being pushed, unless someone's done something in the project. Can you see the source of these? In any trustable kind of way, you know? Or do people just say this is a response?
Yeah, I mean, you can, quite a few of them, if we go to Bento, I'm pretty sure they do actually publish their they're built using Packer templates, the Bento ones, so you'd be able to get the Packer stuff, but I'm not sure you're going to get that even far. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I'd always start with a base box from someone that I know, because then you know it's a base box. Honestly, the ones I most frequently use at work with Vagrant are the RHEL 7 boxes that I built myself from Red Hat ISOs that I've downloaded. And you can get so there's a subscription manager plugin for Vagrant, and that will, you just give it your subscription details as an environment variable, and it handles everything else for you. It does all the subscription, it does everything. So it's just like using a Red Hat box in work where all of that's handled by satellite. Now the last bit that we haven't really got time for is you can use this to run off AWS boxes as well. It's a slightly different process with AWS because you basically use a dummy box because AWS provides you with the underlying box effectively that you run on. But you can set it up in the same way. You're using, as I say, using a dummy box, but otherwise you can set details on it, you can provision it, so you can effectively run. You could have an AWS specific provider section, and you could pretty much run this on an AWS ECS box. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. We haven't actually got slides for them, but we have got some more talks coming up in the series, haven't we?
Yes. Yep.
So I think in about a month's time we're doing, which one are we doing? Is it the pipelines? CI/CD and Docker. Awesome.
There will put details on these documents like that.
And they'll also be on the Automated IT Solutions website, and all so this stuff is available on GitHub, but we'll put the slides up on Automated IT. Oops. There we go. Right, thanks, folks. Thank you.
Are we going to talk about automated IT solutions at all? Are we going to talk about
what do you want to say? Come up, take the stage, tell us about it.
I think we just talked about HashiCorp and the Docker.
We did mention that we got partnerships with HashiCorp and Docker, so I'm hoping to get lots of swag from them. So if you show up to our talks, we've got stickers. We're hoping to get slightly more substantial and less sticky swag, but I think we're trying to talk them into giving us free conference tickets, aren't we? But so far it's all got a bit quiet on that one, hasn't it? Okay, lots of stickers. Not so good with £800 conference tickets.
800 quid? Yes, isn't it?
I'm not sure how much it was, but it did go quiet, didn't it? Anyhow, that's all right. Yeah, exactly. If you don't ask, you don't get. Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks. It is an absolutely stunning evening out there. You don't get views like that in any other city in the world. Nope. Dark grey, beautiful sunset.
The views of them are like no one else.